Hello and welcome to Co-ople Mode, a couple's opinion on gaming. I'm Matt.
And I'm Rose.
Welcome back to the podcast. We're back from the fields hunting monsters.
I'm exhausted from all the monster hunting.
Luckily, we didn't have to run around his foot as much. That helped, but man, my arms are sore from all that wire bug swinging.
I wish we had to run around like that for real. Be in great shape. I would love it.
Oh, yeah. I put a little thought into this game we got coming this week. I think it's something you could really get into on one hand, but I also think that it's something that you can get a good picture of what it is without having to play it a ton, because I know there's that lingering need to play some Monster Hunter yet, because that's not going to be wrung out yet. I know better from experience.
I mean, you can't let me get to high rank and then be like, nope, you got to stop. Play this instead. It's just cruel.
Unfortunately, that's how this podcast works, and you still have to play this game. Do you have any ideas?
I don't. I've been so hyper-focused on playing Monster Hunter. And I mean, you've played with me quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I have no idea when you've snuck around playing another game. And I have no idea what it is. I have had blinders on. I am only caring about Monster Hunter Rise.
I'm looking at the Monster Hunter Road. That's all I'm doing.
Yep.
That's all I'm doing. All right. Well, the game this week is called Dicey Dungeons.
You got a dungeon and you roll some dice and then things happen.
Sort of.
Yeah. I have no idea.
You could basically call it a roguelike deck builder game.
Ooh.
Where dice definitely take center stage.
Ooh. That
And
sounds very
after
good.
Inscription, I think that this is something that could definitely be up your alley.
Oh, yes.
Very different vibe, though.
Oh, really?
Well, Inscription was kind of dark, creepy.
This one has dungeon in the name.
Yeah.
Should be dark and creepy.
It's
It's not flowers and rose
It's
petals.
more like there's a darkness hiding behind a very fun game show facade.
Okay.
That's how I would put it. Essentially, it's... You know what? We'll get into mechanics afterwards. Let's go on to some basic info. This was originally released on PC in August of 2019. So not too long ago. And over the next 3 years, they've gotten ports for the Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, and most recently, last year, the iOS and Android have versions of them, which I do have to say, I do think a mobile version of this game is probably one of the nicest ways to be able to play this game. It can work really well. I actually have spent times on our couch using the Steam Connect on my phone to our computer to play this game.
On your phone.
On my phone, sitting on the couch while it's playing on the computer up here. Yep.
And I have no idea what's going on.
That's the magic of Remote Connect. It's wild what you can do,
That's
folks.
crazy.
It was published and developed by Terry I can't believe I just mispronounced it. Kavanagh. He's an Irish boy.
Yeah.
And he has a huge list of games he's made. Lots of Flash games, lots of wildly different games, everything he makes. It feels like he kind of gets an idea and just makes something and just goes with it and see where it goes. There's a few that people have really like latched onto that people really like. One's like VVVVVVV. One's like Hex. Oh my gosh, Hex. Oh, I didn't write it down because I thought I was going to remember it. He's an interesting guy. In Forbes, I think it was 2014, he was like 30 under 30 video game developer.
Really?
Yeah, in Forbes. This guy just makes stuff and sees how it goes. Like, it's kind of interesting to see his list because it's like a flash game, like Newgrounds type games, you know?
Okay.
And I think he's made stuff for like game jams and stuff like that. You know, what I don't want to say typical indie developer, but like, and you know, a lot of the popular ones we ran across, they like cut their teeth on these game jams and ideas and then you come out with a game that people really love. So interestingly enough, on Metacritic, the original PC version of Dicey Dungeons got an 80 out of 100.
That's pretty good.
The Nintendo Switch got an 88 out of 100.
Easier to please.
And the iOS version got a 98 out of 100.
Wow.
That's what I was saying. I do think this game really lends itself to being able to like, hey, you could watch your show and you could play it on your phone.
I think that's the highest rating we've heard on this podcast. 98 out of 100. I don't think anything's been over 90.
That is an interesting thought.
That's
I think Odyssey was
crazy.
quite up there. Though I do also think it might be the publications that are reviewing these. Because generally speaking, you don't get... like the big publications will be busy reviewing PC console games. They don't have time to also review phone games most of the time. So all the publications that just review phone games, this is a really great phone game because it was good enough to stand on its own as a PC game in the first place. And also I think he's added free like DLC content over the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. So it's a more full version of the game as well. So I take that like just that 98 with a grain of salt, but it's also like that just shows how good it is as a phone game that you can carry anywhere. Interestingly enough, Dicey Dungeons is inspired by one of the first roguelike deck builder games, Dream Quest. And this is what Terry said. This is what inspired him to make this. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is just I'm ashamed or if I just... It's this thing where I've only gotten into PC gaming really like the last, 7 years maybe, once I actually was able to build my own computer.
Okay.
And so Dream Quest came out before that. The guy that made it, he's really interesting. A lot of these deck builder roguelites can trace their lineage to this game. Horrible stick art. The gameplay is good. Like the guy is good at making a game, not so good at being an artist.
Okay.
So it was just like all this really cheesy, it looks like an old Newgrounds, crappy Flash game someone made, right? Yeah. I looked it up. You can get it on Steam and I was tempted to. I heard it can get really hard and it looks bad, but a lot of people trace the original deck builder roguelite to this. The guy who made it, his name is Peter Whalen. He went on to help make Hearthstone. Now, have you heard of Hearthstone? That was the Blizzard World of Warcraft card game.
Okay, yeah.
Hugely popular. One of the best digital card games you could play out there for a long, long time. I think it just kind of people got burnt out on it eventually. And an interesting note was he was working with some of the best artists in the industry. Like they were making amazing art for all these digital cards, right? Uh-huh. He was working with these people and they're like, please let us go and make art for your Dream Quest game. And he's like, nope. The stick figures are part of it. Like he flat out refused to let people change it. And I thought that was just an interesting little tidbit of like, hey, this original crappy looking good mechanic game that people still like to play. He's like, no, you can't change the art.
I love that. Stand by it. That's
Stand
great.
by what you made, right?
Yeah.
And just stuff like that.
It's part of it.
Those little nuggets like that make it fun when I'm researching games. Because sometimes, like Dicey Dungeons, these indie games, you don't always get a lot of fun info, but then you dig a little bit into something else and you find that fun little nugget.
Yeah.
Dicey Dungeons itself is pretty interesting. You essentially start as a character who has been turned into a dice.
Okay.
You're actually a 6-sided dice, your character.
I'm only a 6-sided dice?
Yep, they're all 6-sided dice. And you start out as a warrior. So when you come in, you get a little map and you can click where you want to go. There's enemies you have to fight and treasure chests to get more items to make yourself more effective. So essentially, every time you get into a fight, you roll however many dice you have. I think you start with 3 usually. And you use those dice in equipment that you find. So for the warrior, for example, you'll have like a basic slash attack. It'll do 2 damage. You can put any dice in there. But as you go further, you'll find an equipment that, hey, if you have a 6, it's going to do 8 damage. Okay. But you can only use it 1 time per roll. So once you get a 6, 8 damage, that card's used up. You'll get reusable ones. You can keep using as many dice as you have that'll fit in there. And they all have, there's so many just like little unique things. It's hard to remember all of them because there's different unique items that'll cause status effects. Like one is burning. If you get an ability, a card that will let you cause burning damage, that means if the enemy wants to use a dice they rolled, they have to take 2 HP to put out the fire. Take damage to put out the fire. Or there's, Obscure, which will hide. You won't even be able to see the face of the dice, so you won't actually know what number it is. And you hope when you put it into something, it'll work, you know? There's Zap that will lock certain skills that you've unlocked along the way. It's really interesting how stuff plays out. And like the warrior's good at being like kind of easing you into it. Like this is what you can do. This is kind of the basic format, right? You collect equipment, you can upgrade it, which can maybe take less slots so you can have more equipment to pick from. You can do more damage. Like there's all these different types of synergy you can do. For example, I was playing as a rogue. He can steal cards from the enemy to add to his pile. That's how he keeps increasing his amount of equipment. His basic attack is called Dagger Eyes. You can only put a 1 in there, but it'll do 2 damage. But if you get abilities that split dice, you split a 2 into 2 1s. You split all these other dice, so you get a ton of 1s that you can just throw into that 1 and do a bunch of damage at the end. That's just like a basic idea. But each character has a different special ability that charges up. So the rogue steals cards and eventually can do, when he takes enough damage, can do Berserk, where he does twice the amount of damage for every move he does that one turn, which can really turn the tide really quickly, right? There is a Jester who essentially you trade out cards in a deck, and every time you start a move, you draw so many cards. So you don't know what you're going to get. There's an inventor, an engineer or an inventor, and he can take apart a card to use a new special ability for this battle. So you're constantly wanting to get new cards and like, okay, I know what, if I take apart this, it's going to heal me, give me a move that'll heal me 10.
I like that.
That's really cool. There's a witch who is all about making a spell book. Now this one's really interesting, kind of tricky. Basically, you set up a spell book and each one's to a number on a dice, 1 to 6. So when you roll, you have to put a dice of that number into your spell book to put it out onto your field to be able to actually use it.
Okay.
And as you go, you can have upgrade slots or more prepared slots to use and like build up. So, but you always start with only 1. So you have to like build your hand every turn with your spell books, depending on what you roll. Each character plays very differently, which is very interesting. And it's kind of fun to experiment with what you like.
Right.
And I also think it is interesting. The base game makes you play through 5 characters, 1 episode each on each character. So you get a feel. And then after that, you can play harder difficulties with the characters you've already played as. So I think each dice has 6 episodes, which gets progressively harder. Like one is you start with half health, or the enemies have plus 10 health, and you take damage when you do this. Like it forces you to change your play style every time you do it.
It sounds like that kind of game where you're going to play as everybody and have to learn how to be effective.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And it's very interesting to see how it plays out. There's a Halloween DLC where you go through like a spooky themed one, and then there's like the reunion tour. Everybody's come back and they're enjoying everything. It's a lot of fun. It's all set up as like this theme show. Like, hey, you got to get through all these levels, beat the boss. And if you beat the boss, you spin the wheel. If you get the jackpot, you get everything you heart desired and you get to escape this dungeon. If not, well, guess what happens every time? You go right back to the dungeon. Right. Yeah. So I actually haven't gotten all the way to the end, but like I've had fun just like doing a run, coming in, hitting it again. Sure. Like I live for that.
So it sounds like a pretty quick game.
Yeah, I think you can do a run through in like 20 to 30 minutes, depending on what kind of build you get. And some of it's random. You don't know what cards you're going to run into, Yeah. So it's really fun to try to experiment and like mix and match and see what works for you. So one of the mechanics is you'll run across anvils, which you can use to upgrade your cards. Now, essentially for most characters, what you'll have is 6 slots. Now, some cards take up double slots, and some cards only take up one slot. So usually a double slot card is more powerful, right? It's more useful. But like, it's like, oh, I wish I could have more abilities. Like I can roll 6 dice now. I want, like I feel like I'm always have leftover dice that are useless to me, right? But sometimes when you upgrade a card, instead of upgrading the damage or ability it does, it actually cuts it in half. So it only takes up 1 slot. And then you have like, so there's all this like, okay, what's the best upgrade I can do this time? What's, like there's all this
there's
like little
a lot of ways
planning.
to think about how to play.
Yeah.
I like that. It does sound a little bit like Inscription in that way, because eventually in that game you have these weird moments where you can split cards or put 2 together.
Yeah, exactly.
So it makes me excited to try this.
I think you'll really like it. And you have a bevy of options if you want to play it. We could get it for
How did
the
you
phone.
play it? On your phone?
See, I originally got it on Steam, I think the year it came out. So
Okay.
I've had it for a while. It's out on Game Pass right now currently. So you could play it on the Xbox. So, I mean, you can play it on PC or Xbox. We have it right now easily. Though there's a part of me that's like, it would be really nice on a phone or on the Switch, because then you could we could watch a movie.
I don't believe you, because you said that about Vampire Survivors, and I strongly disagree.
This one is better for a phone, because I get why you don't like Vampire Survivors without a controller as much.
I was stuck in a situation where I had time and could not do anything, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Matt downloaded Vampire Survivors on my phone. I could do that. And I hated it. And I love that game, but I was like, this is crap. And it's not that the game is bad. It's just like on your phone, no thank you. I do not have as much control over my movement as I would like. And especially starting out, that's pretty tricky. And once you've gone through the ease of having the sticks on the Xbox, I can't go.
Yeah, a control stick or the WASD keys on a keyboard is a much better way to control
I would rather
things
play
than
it with a keyboard for sure.
So yeah, I'm excited to see like what characters you end up enjoying. I believe there's a warrior, a rogue, a jester, a robot, inventor, and a witch. And they all, the rogue and the warrior probably play the most similarly, and everybody else really does feel different. And the other fun thing about this game is I said it's all of this facade of like a game show, but it's all this kind of fun, cartoony characters. And the people you fight is like a cactus with a wooden sword and shield, a flaming marshmallow, a pelican that caws so loudly that you get weakened.
I'm excited to try
There's
this.
a big muscly snowman that like,
Really?
I'll sculpt you later after the battle. Like it's so just fun to see what you run into, because you just run into wild things.
That makes me the most excited.
Yeah, it's so silly.
A muscly snowman is a wonderful thought that I've never thought before. That's fun to think
Like
about.
I said, there's this like facade of like everything's fun. It's a game show. There's all these silly characters, and then it's also like the game show host is Lady Luck, and I guess you're not escaping this week. Like talking all like it's all light and fun and games, and
I love it.
so I think you'll really will enjoy it. The hard thing about we get these little games, it's like I don't have a ton to talk about in the first half, and I always feel bad, especially after like we get an episode like Monster Hunter where we have a lot to talk about. But you know what? Sometimes a little shorter episode's good.
Sometimes it's okay.
What's your rating? Excitement?
9 out of 10, I would say. It
Oh,
sounds
man.
pretty. The muscly snowman and the cactus with a sword and shield really sold me. It sounded good. It was like at an 8, but that really boosted it to a 9. I like the humor in this.
There's
already.
a lot of even in the moves. It's like the cactus, their dice moves. You'll get to see them when they attack, where you can look at them before,
Sure.
and it's like, okay, you put a dice in here, you do 2 attack, you gain 2 thorns, so you hurt them when they attack you, stuff like that. It's all related to the character every time. Like there's a Wild West guy, which is like, okay, 6-shooter, how many times can you fire off? And it's a lot of fun and just like a lot of little silliness in it. And I think you really will appreciate it. But what are we doing sitting around here? You could be playing a game.
I got to try it out, and I got to decide what to try it out on.
Yeah, that's the thing. You got lots to try it out on. So
Might do it on the PC.
yeah.
Yeah, give the Xbox a break. Only bad thing about playing Monster Hunter is we do use our Xbox for TV watching, game playing.
Yeah.
I can sit in the laptop in the corner.
I'm
all by
totally in the
myself.
corner. No one can bother me. All right. Well, let's get to it, and we'll
go
see
do
you
it.
guys in a little bit. Bye-bye. Hello, welcome back.
I made it out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I made it out of the dungeon.
Yeah, Lady Luck really tries to keep her grip on you, don't
keeps
she?
you down there and you can't escape.
There's no escape.
I felt like I got stuck in there and couldn't escape.
Yeah, you were pretty stuck in there for a minute.
Stuck for a week and
I'm not gonna lie. Well, excited you got some good time in, and let's hear what you feel.
Oh,
Your
I put some time in.
Yeah, she definitely did. This game got some hooks in her for a good minute.
So there's 6 different characters, right? Mm-hmm. First one is the warrior. He's rated a 1-star. He's supposed to be like the easiest to play as. This is all a lie, by the way. The star ratings don't really fucking matter at all. It's all lies. It's all deceit.
I think the star ratings are more of how complicated the character is to play.
No. Because
I'm going to trust her on this.
Because as you go through, there's like 6 episodes to every character. As you go through, all the freaking rules change anyway. So the complication, I mean, that just depends on who you are as a person. Like, how hard is this going to be for you? This is going to be a 1-star in episode 1, but on episode 2, we're going to completely undo all of these same things and make you do something completely different. So now it's like, to you, a 7-star complication. If you get lucky, maybe the 3rd episode will be easier for you. But I mean, this whole rating system, like, let's just put that in the garbage bin and close the lid. It's not really useful.
I do agree with you. Like after the first episode of each character, the star ratings really mean jack squat.
It really means nothing. It's just for your own comfort to think that you're going to get through this, but you're not.
Oh, man.
So as the warrior, like, you have a few pieces of set equipment that you start with, and there's 6 floors to every episode. The 6th floor being where the boss is, and that's only what's on that floor, just the boss. So with the warrior, as you're going through and defeating enemies, you're going to collect more equipment from treasure chests. And sometimes when you level up, you get something, or you're forced to take something. That's usually what happens, which I don't appreciate. Sometimes when you're like on floor 4 or 5, the last thing you want to do is be forced to take a piece of equipment that you don't want because you've got a good setup going.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So
been there.
For the most part, like, yeah, the warrior's easy to kind of get into to see how this game works for the most part. I got through the first episode pretty quickly, but then the 2nd episode just kicked my butt quite a few times. In the 2nd episode, you get all upgraded equipment. Everything that you find is upgraded, but you are cursed every turn. A curse means that one of your pieces of equipment is going to randomly not work. And you don't find that out till you use the dice on it, and it just disappears in a cloud of purple and black smoke with a little skull that pops up. You got fucked in the distance.
As if there isn't enough randomness between what number your dice rolls are, what equipment you actually find on your quest, and what enemies you end up running into on this randomly generated map each time.
Especially in the beginning when you have like 2 dice to roll with.
Oh,
like as you go through each episode, you slowly gain like 1 more dice here, 1 more dice there.
Yep.
But especially in the beginning when you have 2 freaking dice to roll, so you know 50% of this is not going to work. You are going to get boned every single turn. It's so hard. Oh my goodness. I didn't make it through that. I didn't make it through it. I can see what the 3rd episode is. The 3rd episode is where you lose 2 HP every time you level up. So instead of gaining 4 HP every time you level up, you lose 2. I didn't even attempt that because I don't want to. Like, you already don't get a lot of HP in this, especially compared to your enemies.
Yeah.
If you defeat every enemy on every level before you get to the boss, it perfectly levels you up to your max amount.
Yes.
And that's usually like 44 HP by the time you get to the end. The boss will have like 80 or over 100. I mean, you need to fight every enemy to give yourself the best chance. I don't know how you make it through without doing that. And I can't imagine starting out with like 28 HP and just losing 2 every level up.
Yeah.
You'll have like 20 HP by the time you get to the boss, and you're supposed to survive that? Yeah. I don't know.
And I believe that's how the warrior gets more dice, too, is they have to level up to get more dice to roll, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure you would get the dice, but you're going to lose the HP.
That's rough. That's so rough.
Then you have the thief that you can choose to play as. Really just like a rogue. His deal is very similar to the warrior, except that he can steal equipment from the enemies. So as you're battling a certain enemy, you, in the beginning, can borrow their equipment for that fight. On the second episode, you can steal their equipment permanently if you want.
Yes.
But you have a countdown that you have to complete. That was super hard as well, and I did not pass that. Like, I can't remember what the exact number for that count is, but trying to get, especially again when you only have 2 dice in the beginning, trying to get that number down so that you can steal their equipment while you're trying to attack and also not die, it just feels impossible. It didn't, like, I liked playing the thief in the first episode. That was kind of fun. The second episode, the mechanics of it just, I was like, no thanks. I was distracted with other characters in this game.
Yep.
The robot is the third one in. I did not play as the robot more than one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you know what's funny? When it comes to robots in video games, I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like, I just have no, I saw his mechanic and I don't even really understand it very much.
Oh, okay.
Like, you have I don't even know how to say it.
I played the robot
I don't
a decent amount,
but I didn't try to figure it out.
Okay, so if you may have listened to Rose so far, you understand the number 6 comes up a lot. It's because the dice that you play as are D6. The dice that you use are D6. Like 6 floor, like that's very pervasive in this game, right? Even how many equipment slots you have. Now, when you get to the robot, instead of rolling dice, so many dice like normal, you have a meter. I think it starts out at like, 11 or 12 or something like that. Essentially, you click that button and a random number between 1 and 6 will fill up the meter. And then you get that dice by whatever you filled up that meter. So if you fill up, if the meter gets filled up 4 points, you get a number 4.
It's like blackjack, though, because you can bust your meter.
Yep. So here's the thing. If you go over your full meter, then you like overheat and then your turn's over. So you have to like...
It's just chance.
Yes,
and
you
you're
have
trying
to be
get
careful.
dice to play with.
Yep.
That annoys me so much in my body right now. Like, that's why I did not play as the robot more than once.
When you get further on, like your meter gets bigger and like you get abilities that helps you use the most of it.
That still just like inherently pisses me off.
And that's fine. I just think it was, I do like, especially in this game, the first episode with each character does feel really different. So like when you come in and you play the robot especially after playing the warrior and the thief, which are probably the most similar of the characters, you're like, oh wow, like this is really different. And like it's fun when the characters actually feel different, not like, oh, I have fire on my hair instead of water. Yeah. And I'm the same thing, just water attacks instead or something, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do have props for that. Everyone is very different, plays extremely differently from the other ones, has different mechanics to them. It was really imaginative the way that he did that. And it does keep it more exciting. It makes you want to play more, to try everybody out and to see which ones click with you. The next one is the inventor, and he was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
So you get equipment, kind of like the warrior. You collect equipment over the different maps, but you get to use that equipment and turn it into gadgets that you can use. And that's a sidebar that you have unlimited use of most of the time. So different different equipment will make a different gadget where you can burn the enemy's dice. You can heal a small amount. You can block a certain amount of attack coming your way on the next turn. That was pretty fun. I liked the first episode a lot. The second episode, I made it through, but the third episode, all of your equipment has a counter of 4 on it. After 4 uses, it breaks.
Ugh.
And it is gone.
Ugh.
When it breaks, that replaces your gadget. So whatever equipment that was, you get a new gadget on the side. That's not so bad. What's bad is you can't find and collect enough equipment, hardly at all, to keep going throughout the game. That's what's hard. There was one moment where I got to upgrade the counters on the equipment that I had, and I did it as much as I could.
Yeah.
So I got a few up from like 4 to 6, but that's still only 2 more turns. And on certain enemies that might take a while to knock their HP down, you use your equipment so many times in a row. It is impossible, I think, to beat this level.
Okay.
I don't know how you're going to do it.
I think I had a misunderstanding for a second.
Yeah.
It's not how many turns you can use that equipment. That's
It's
literally,
uses.
and some equipment is reusable in a turn multiple times.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So in one battle with an enemy, I mean, you could potentially lose all of your equipment that you have in that one battle.
Even if you get to the boss, he's probably going to have a ton of health.
And even your gadgets, they still have a counter on them too. They're only used for so long before they break, and then you just don't have a gadget on the side either.
Then my last question, because you've gotten further in this game than I did.
Yeah, I found that out, by the way.
Yeah.
I have a point of contention here. You're making me play a game that you only played the first episode of each character on, and you were like, I'm good. And then you made me play it, and I went deep into it, and I was like, how did you do this? And you're like, I never got that far. That's the first time.
Okay, first of all, when I originally got this game on Steam, which is what you played it on, it was early access. So it didn't have all the characters, and I was able to play multiple episodes in before unlocking all the characters. In the current full release of the game, you have to complete episode 1 with all the characters and have them all unlocked before you can start
episode 2, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Which is fine. So I've actually gone a few episodes in with a couple characters, but when they changed how it works, I had to kind of do a little reset, and start over. And then at that point, I'm like, okay, I did all the.
So I will forgive you for that. That's what you get for playing early access and being too eager and greedy for more new games.
It was fun, and I enjoyed it, and it was on sale. I don't regret it. But it is. You
sound like a woman with a purse collection. It was on sale.
But it is. Yeah, and this is just me, my personality. I tend to get distracted by something I want to play, and something this is my trouble, especially with this podcast, is I can't dig into the things I want and into the things I need to play to remind myself. So there's going to come a point where I'm like, Rose, you need to give me 3 hours today. I need to really dig into this game before I make you play it. But we got time before we get there. Don't worry. But I was going to ask about this inventor. When the gadget breaks down and the equipment breaks down and turns into the gadget.
Yeah.
Do you lose your current gadget? Does it replace it? Or
yes,
do you
it does.
Oh,
so
God,
if you have 2 pieces of equipment that are both on their last counter, and you use one, you get a new gadget. You use the other one, it replaces that other gadget immediately.
So you're trying to use up your gadgets first, so you're not wasting them.
I guess that would be a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of tricky because, like I said, then at that point, you don't get a choice of what gadget it is. It may or may not even be helpful. You got to think about that too. In a certain situation.
Yeah, it all depends on whatever the item is, what it turns into.
Right.
Yep. Okay.
For the most part, most of them are pretty useful. There's only a few that, I'm like, But again, that comes back to the way each person wants to play more than anything. Not a fault of the game, a fault of the player in the seat.
To an extent.
No, I'm stubborn. The 5th character is the witch, and this is the one that I enjoyed the most. I got the furthest with her, even though she has a star rating of 6. Like I said, this difficulty system can't be accurate because the witch was the easiest for me.
Well, it's kind of like a D&D dice character, you know?
Yeah, maybe that's why it just clicked a little bit. Because with the witch, you have a spell book. You usually start out with about 2 spells, and as you go through each floor, you find and collect more spells. You assign them to a number on your dice in your spell book. When you battle, you have 4 spell slots. So whatever number you roll, the corresponding spell can be put there for you to use with your dice. I really liked it. The coolest part for me is there is a spell called Magic Mirror, and when you find that and equip that, you can use a number 6 dice to get another dice for the rest of the fight.
Yes.
And if you have an upgraded spell slot, which you can usually get 2 upgraded spell slots throughout an episode.
Yes.
If you put that spell on there, then it's an even number. 2, 4, 6,
Which
another
is a
dice.
huge
2,
deal.
4, 6, another dice. And you can use it, you know, if you the best part about this is like if you get that spell and use it, and you just keep adding and rolling dice, you can get in the best loop sometimes of just like, oh, I just added 3 dice to my next turn.
Yeah.
There was one run where I had 6 extra dice plus the 3 I was rolling.
Yep.
And each character also has a special boost. So when you take so much damage, you get a boost. Her boost is Cauldron. She rolls 3 extra dice.
Yep.
So, I mean, literally my screen is covered with dice at some points.
Yep.
And I love it because the more dice you have, the more spells you can cast and just beat that sucker up. I really, really enjoyed the gameplay there.
Limit break, that's what they called it.
Yes.
In this one.
Yes.
And anybody who's played a Final Fantasy VII game, it is essentially the same thing. You have a meter that fills up when you take damage, and when it's full, you get to do a special thing, which gets to roll more dice. Some characters multiply their attack damage for that turn. Like a bunch of different things.
Like the warrior has fury. He will do double the attack on your next attack.
Yeah, so when you get all those dice, anytime you put a new spell in your spell slot from your spell book to your spell slot, you can use it again. So
yeah,
it's
so
nice.
the more dice you have, like, I think pretty much every spell is usable once. But if you have a bunch of other dice, you can just keep loading up spells on your turn and using them again. Yep. And sometimes you can get like a duplicate spell so that you can get 2 of a certain number of dice.
Yep.
Or if you have a bump spell, which means that you bump your dice up 1 point. If you put a 6 in there, you get a 6 and a 1 back instead of just making a 2, a 3, or a 4, a 5. So always put the number 6 in your bump spot because having an extra dice is better than not.
More often than not, yes.
So I got through episode 3. It was a struggle. It took a long time. I got to episode 4. In episode 4 for the witch, all enemies have 10% more health and their equipment is upgraded. Yours is not. And you start out with 2 dice and 2 spells.
Yep.
I got really far. I got to like level 4 and 5 a couple times on episode 4. But by the time I get to floor 5, I am so just beat up that I can't quite make it through. I always die. And I think the biggest thing there, which I'll talk about a little bit later, is the floor layout. And,
well, it's random. Every time you come in, you don't know what you're going to have to throw yourself up against.
I think there's a few different layouts that possibly can come up.
Okay.
But you do get the same ones sometimes.
All right.
Like, there are 6 floors, but it's a random of, are you going to get this floor style, or this floor style? There's not that many different ones, so you start to recognize them.
Okay.
Especially because you die so much, you get to do it over and over so many times.
Like this?
A lot.
But not that lighthearted. Well, maybe.
No, Mario, you know what? Super Mario, when you die, feels about the same as this game. Yeah, because you pretty much have to start all over and want to kill yourself. The last character is the Jester. I also really like the Jester. He has a deck of cards. You get them shuffled before your turn, and 3 pop out, and as you use them, 1 more will slide out. So if you have the dice to use, you can just keep going. And in the beginning, it's always hard. You usually just have the 2 dice, and until you get cards that will give you more dice, or you level up to get more dice. So it's a struggle.
It's hard to get a good chain going. Yeah. Yep.
I also love his cards because, like, his cards are boop and bop. One does like 3 damage, one does 2 damage. Boop bop. I just picture a clown like just bopping somebody on the head with a toy for 2 damage, and I love it.
I like the attitude he has because with all the characters that you played with ahead of time, because Lady Luck is hosting this Dicey Dungeons game show, right? And then the Jester's kind of her helper, making comments, talking. Like, you actually fight him sometimes on the maps.
Yes.
But once he becomes a dice, he's like, legally, I don't have to talk to you or deal with your nonsense anymore. Like, he's all like, he's just like, I'm done. I quit.
If you get through an episode, you get to spin the prize wheel.
Yeah.
It always, every time lands on, oh, you win nothing.
Yeah.
You know? And that's usually the Jester's job until he turns into a dice and decides to fight alongside you. And so they try to get one of the enemies, the baby squid, to do it. And he keeps messing it up and saying the wrong thing about how it's all rigged. And that, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. You are going to lose again. Oh, wait, I'm not supposed to say that. Like, it's just adorable and really funny. And then Lady Luck fires him and he's sad. So then she does it. That part of the game, like, the setup, the story to it, Lady Luck and how sassy she is and just always like throwing shade at everybody at the beginning of the episode. It's funny. It's a really enjoyable way to go about it, where you know from the start that it's rigged. It's very funny. The things that they say,
just how they play it. I love the interaction with your enemies because they all talk to you, and like as you go forward in the episodes, they're like, oh, I remember you, or I'm gonna do better next time, or like, oh, I'll see you after the show, or like it's like everybody's in on it, and they know what's going on, but they're still like, oh, we're having a good time, it's fun.
On like the first episode, by the time you get to 2 and 3, they're all just like, I'm gonna murder you the next time I see you. You're never gonna make it out alive. They get a lot more aggressive with their dialogue, especially like that the big beetle. Oh shoot,
I can't remember.
I can't remember his real name, but he is one of those. What are they called? Sword beetles or?
Oh, the
rhino beetle.
Yep,
sorry.
rhinos.
The rhino beetle gets real aggressive with you, and he is so tough to beat anyway.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, the enemies just keep getting stronger as you play.
I always hated the loud bird.
So yeah, believe me, I got notes about that loud bird. You and I both.
Oh, what a pain in the ass.
So I start getting into this game and playing it, and it's a roguelite, right? You're dying over and over again. I'm trying each character, seeing what hits.
Each run's a little different. Yeah, a little.
Between episodes, it's different. I would say each run, the only difference between each run is the equipment that you find in the treasure chests is random.
Okay.
So that can make a difference.
Yep.
But otherwise, it's not that random.
Well, I think the boss at the end changes.
Yeah, but that really doesn't matter. I mean, if you even make it that far, by the time you get there, I think there was only one time that it mattered who it was for me.
Oh,
I was not equipped to... I think I had a lot of fire damage equipped, and I was fighting Buster the Dragon. So that was not effective against him. Most of the time, though, once you get to the boss, like they do have a lot of HP. By that point, you're usually leveled up all the way.
Yeah, the equipment you want.
You can usually get, I mean, if you make it that far, you have your setup tight.
That's true.
So usually the boss battle isn't that bad, ironically.
I know.
If you fought every enemy along the way, you're totally max level, you're healed up before you go in there. It's not that hard necessarily to defeat one boss at the end. That's the crazy part about this game. It's way harder just to get there than to finish it. You know?
I would agree. The journey's harder than the final boss, for sure.
So at first this was all pretty fun and I was hooked and I was loving it. And then the more I played, it just started to descend. It just went lower and lower for me.
But you couldn't stop playing even though it was frustrating you.
So I got to this point where I couldn't stop playing even though I kept dying. And I'm like, I'm going to get through this. I've got to, I'm just going to keep trying. And even then, I couldn't advance, and I had like 3 days where I was playing every night and I made no progress. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, you know what? I got to take a break. I told you, I'm like, don't let me play this tomorrow. I'm going to play some Monster Hunter right now because that's what I really want to do. Monster Hunter Rise. Woo woo. And I needed that break. And honestly, I have not wanted to play it again since. I tried it a little bit again this morning before we recorded.
Yep.
And I just died a couple more times. I like how every different character provides a different style of playing that does keep it interesting and engaging. But once you get to the second episode, it really jumps in difficulty. And there's always a gimmick that makes it so much harder for you. The enemies have way more advantages like health or better equipment. Also, the map and the way it's laid out, that makes a big difference in how successful you're going to be. I figured that out pretty early on. As you go through the different floors, you're going to have enemies, you're going to have apples that'll heal you, there will be some markets, there will be some treasure chests. If you plan out, okay, I know I'm going to level up after 3 more enemies, I'm not going to use this apple till I defeat this guy. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do this. You have to think about it and not just willy-nilly go and grab things and fight people because you will die.
Yes.
It's very important to look at each floor and think about how you want to go forward.
Yeah.
Which I like that. It's very strategic in that way, and I do enjoy that.
And the fact that you can take your time to think about your move. I think that's why Inscription ended up being a favorite of yours, because even though it is a roguelite, it's a type of roguelite where it's more about how you plan going forward than it is about
it is only in this
I gotta dodge, I gotta jump, I gotta get it's not as much about that.
It is only in this way though, because you have, and I mean that's my point that I'm going to make here is true for every roguelite. You have no control over what enemies you're going to fight, what moves they have, how hard and there's only so much defense you can do, and there's only so much healing you can do, right? So you can give yourself the best chance of success by kind of planning out okay, I'm going to try to hit this one and then I'll do this. But it's the difference between surviving or not by taking a moment to think about it, but it guarantees nothing, which I guess is pretty standard for this kind of game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what roguelites are. That's why we do them, because we're crazy and we like to be punished.
Thinking about it too is I've gone back and tried this, played this game a little bit more a few times, and I enjoy the very beginning the most myself, and I'll go back because I think the core of this gameplay is really good. I really like it.
It's really fun.
It is really good, and the little DLC missions are fun and they mix it up a little bit. But it is, I think, what really captures me on a roguelite is if all that time I put into it also gives me some effect afterwards on my next run, and this game doesn't do that.
So that's one of my biggest points that I was going to bring up.
Yeah, okay.
Because when I started to get so frustrated and I had to stop playing, I had to think about this because I started out really loving it. Mm-hmm. But the more I played, I started to hate it. And I'm like, this is exactly the opposite thing that happened to me with Inscription.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly opposite. God. I started Inscription and rage quit and then loved it. This one, I started out loving it and then I kind of almost rage quit where I was like, fuck this game. I'm taking a break. I can't anymore.
I'm out.
So thinking about it, I've done so many runs just beating my head against the wall, trying to get through, that I started to burn out. Mm-hmm. I was tired of fighting the same enemies over and over again. I was tired of the minimalistic art on the screen. I was tired of the music. And I think the balancing of this game is just a little too hardcore. Mm-hmm. It's hard to progress. It's hard to move on. The fun started to be sucked out of it. So in Inscription, it's hard. The enemy also cheats. You also die a lot.
Yep.
But what happens when you die in Inscription?
Well, certain things that you unlock depending on how far you go or what you've done in the room, like they carry over, right?
You can find extra cards around the room that are hidden or stuck behind a puzzle, and those are permanently added to your deck. But every time you die, you make a death card.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe I forgot about that.
You get a chance to choose between like 3 cards and take the health and the action from them and make a death card. Now, you saw me defeat Inscription. It was only because of that one death card that I had.
Yeah, I had some really good ones that helped my runs.
So the more you play, you get a little bit further, a little bit further. Your death cards have the potential of being stronger, stronger, stronger. Mm-hmm. Every time you play, you can get a chance to get some of those death cards. They're in the rotation. That is the biggest difference between Dicey Dungeons and Inscription. When you die in Dicey Dungeons, you don't get anything. Nope. There is nothing. You are done. You start all over again. There's no advantage to playing 50 runs. In Inscription, there is. The other difference that's pretty major, and I think you forgot this too, because we were talking about it a little bit the other day. You have help in Inscription. You have your 3 side items. And I think you were going to say, but you don't start with those. Yeah. But you do. You start with a squirrel in a bottle.
That's true. You do start with a squirrel in a bottle. Yep.
Also, along the way, you get chances to pick up other items that help you out and switch them out if you want. And those make a big difference in a battle when you're in a tight spot.
They really do. And I think for me, the most recent memory I had was like the first episode of everything, right? So I was thinking about it like that. But as you get further along, the game really just is like, we're really trying not to let you win. And I understand like the story wise in the game, that makes sense. That's kind of the point. But as a person buying a video game, there's a certain point where it's like you said, you're beating your head against a wall. Like, why am I doing this? Like, this game isn't as fun anymore. I still stand behind the beginning of this game. Great. But it does kind of get you to a point where it's like, okay, like I'm not enjoying this and I don't feel like I'm making progress. Like there's nothing carrying over. There's no...
Well, I actually got to that point, like I said, where I had played 3 days straight and literally no progress was made. Yeah, yep. I didn't get anything out of putting that time in. Not anything. Actually, when you think about it.
No, nothing.
And I should have looked and added up like how many runs I've done, because it'll tell you like how many times you've lost. It's probably a lot. I probably don't want to look, actually.
It kind of just makes me think that maybe this game, the end game is for a certain type of people and the beginning is for everybody.
What kind of people would that be? Just out of curiosity.
Okay, like, look, I like Dark Souls, right? But at least I can do something to help get some kind of progress. I can grind or I can go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever,
I will give you that. I did not enjoy playing Dark Souls, but I think I'd rather do that than try to get further in this game. Like, if you made me try to defeat all the way through all 6 episodes, I think I'd rather play Dark Souls. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because at least it's like, well, you know, I can at least grind these weak monsters that isn't giving me many souls, but I can eventually level up to make it easier.
Yeah, I can be stuck playing this same level over and over again 100 times, but I'm going to be upgraded.
Yeah, exactly.
So that I can get through this boss. There's a purpose to it, right?
And I get that, but some people are like, they play a game and like, I'm going to do it, I'm going to figure it out. Like, he wouldn't make a game that's completely unbeatable, you would hope. And I'm sure there are people out there that have beat it, but I do think, unfortunately, it does come down to some luck. Like, it's what kind of items you get, what kind of build do you make on your run, and what you roll on your dice.
So, I mean, I started out thinking that as well, but the more I played it, like, you kind of can't get lucky enough as you go on.
No.
I mean, you have so much against you. I mean, you'd have to... I just don't think you can get lucky enough to make it much easier than what it's going to be. And I mean, there's definitely unlucky moments where you just don't roll the right things you need. But for the most part, oh gosh. I was surprised. I really was, because the look of this game, like the art style, the music, it doesn't feel like a game that's going to kick you in the groin and walk away.
No, it doesn't.
But it really does. Like, it's ruthless. It's not forgiving at all.
Yeah, it definitely gets there, and I agree with that. I'm not sure. I really feel like I would rate this game differently for the beginning and for the end, or like even the middle game, right?
Well, okay, so that seems a little bit silly to me, because you should rate the game on the full game experience if you can. Although, like, who am I to talk? I couldn't make it past the first level in Dark Souls.
Yeah.
So I mean, but I put that disclaimer up there.
yeah.
I let everybody know.
Well,
hey.
okay, I'm curious now. Unless, is there something else you really wanted to touch on?
I could talk about the enemies a little bit, but I don't even know if there's really a purpose to that. They were pretty interesting. Like, they're funny.
Yep.
They're not. I don't think there's enough different enemies. As you go further, a few new ones pop up here and there, but
it's a repeat.
It's for as many times as you're going to redo these runs, there's not enough different enemies. I got so burnt out on seeing the same people do the same moves. Like, I feel like I've just eaten oatmeal every day for a year and have nothing else. Like, I'm so burnt out on it. I mean, there's some funny things, like the loud bird is a crane wearing headphones blasting music, and he has a move where he can silence you, where he kind of covers up your moves and you have to spend dice to open those moves back up, which can be just a killer. The other one that I thought was great was the alchemist, a woman with 4 different potions. And they have large counters on them, but once she counts them down, they hit pretty hard. But her last potion is the bear potion, where she turns into a bear.
Yep.
And she also heals like 12 HP or something ridiculous like that. But as the thief, I accidentally stole that, not knowing how that worked or what it did. And I turned myself into a bear.
And then you're the bear for the rest of the game.
The rest of the game, you're a bear. Which was kind of awesome. I did like that. That was fun. Are there any special enemies that you can think of that you really enjoyed?
I think the muscly snowman cracks me up.
Yeah.
And the cute little cactus with like a pot lid shield.
He's a sad cactus.
Yeah.
He's like sweating and he's got a frowny face.
Yeah, he's like, I want to win. Like, he just, there's just like the art style, and like, I think a lot of thought was put into all these characters. They're silly. They're fun. It's like, why am I fighting a flaming marshmallow? Like,
who does ice damage and fire damage? Yeah. Somebody explain that to me. The fire damage makes sense, but how is a marshmallow doing?
I think it's just fun. I think it's like he put a bunch of words in a hat and pulled stuff out and like, let's make that, you know? When you first play it, it is really fun.
Like I said, I think I got too burnt out because it just wasn't enjoyable I wasn't getting the silly giggles from it anymore.
Yeah, because you were frustrated that you couldn't.
Well, I'm just tired of their same stuff. The baby squid is cute because every time you fight the baby squid afterwards, she's like, good game. That was a lot of fun. Oh, come see me again soon. I'm so lonely. Please, God. Baby squid needs a friend.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. All right, then what's your final rating on this game?
I'm not trying to be too harsh.
No.
6.5 out of 10.
No, that's fine. I feel like that's reasonable. I do think, like, with the difficulty spike that happens, that's tough. I'm okay with the game being really hard and not being able to beat it, because if I'm going to be honest, that's most games in my life. Like, I don't beat games. That's not something that I do. Well, some of your favorite games are actually really hard. Northgard is really hard.
And I lose all the time.
Yeah, but I think it's a different feeling from, hey, the game is just like unnecessarily, ridiculously stacked against you, and like, hey, I could have beat the game if I did this a little differently, or if, like, there's a little bit of like random events happen in Northgard that can mess you up, but mostly it's like, how did you build up and how long did it take you to do that? I
think the biggest thing for me in this game is it being a roguelite. You need to be able to have some advantage to dying over and over again.
Yeah.
Once I really pinpointed that that's what the difference was for me, it really gave me a bad taste in my mouth about this game because, like I said, I have wasted hours and gotten nowhere. And I mean, really, literally got nowhere. Like, if we go play Monster Hunter and I just go on expeditions and collect random stuff, like, there's never any, even if you go try to hunt a monster and you die, you still grab some stuff along the way.
Yeah.
Like, nothing ever feels like a failure.
Or at least you get the experience of fighting the monster so you know what to look out for, you know?
And like you said, Northgard, I die a lot in that game, but it doesn't feel worthless because you're still learning, like, how to prepare better. Like you said, what you could go for better, because there's so many different options of how to win or what's the best way for the clan that you picked. If you go up against this other clan, how do you build yourself up against them better next time? There's no, like, learning from experience here. By the time you finished, like, the first episode, you know all these enemies for the most part. You know all that. And there's really nothing that you get to do to help bolster against any of that. There's no learning your lesson. I mean, after the first time of battling them, you learned it and that's it. So when you do it another 60 times, you didn't get anything from that. It was just like, oh, I rolled bad dice this time. And that happens.
Yeah, and I didn't push that far because, like I said, there wasn't a hook for me to, like, keep trying. You're going to, like, get an attack boost or you're going to find a card you can carry over to the next turn. Like, there's nothing like that in this game. So you're purely just playing it on, like, a time-by-time basis. And I like coming back, like I said, and just playing. The core gameplay is good.
The core gameplay is fun.
The difficulty spike in the later missions, I don't enjoy as much. And that's probably why I fell off, because there's other things that have a better hook that I enjoy more, you know? Like Vampire Survivors, I've gotten after that. Much better hook, right?
Because you always get somewhere.
Yeah, there's always something to work towards. There's always something to try to get. And it tells you how to go about getting it, or at least where to find it. And, you know, I enjoy that so much better in a roguelite.
I think the world was creative. I like the story. Like we talked about, all the different characters and how they play so differently. That was done really, really well. Each one does have a major difference from the next one. So there's extremely different ways to play. I think there was a lot of good work put into that. I think there was good work put into the enemies, but like I said, we really needed more. If you're going to play to actually, like, fill everything out, you get so burnt out on this stuff. The music's okay. It's nothing special. You got some nice little pump up music when you're battling. That's probably my favorite part. But I mean, and visually, it's okay. It's good.
I like the art style.
I like the art style, but again, I'm just too burnt out because I've looked at it so much. I'm like, this is boring.
You're a little
I don't care
overloaded.
So I'm worried that my score's down a little bit just because of that. Because if you had asked me a week ago, I probably would have said 8.
Yep.
But the more I've played it, like, I just don't enjoy playing it anymore. Actually,
it was.
I probably, like, when I started, I thought, "Ooh, I love this game. I'm gonna play this all the time because it's really quick. You just jump in."
Yep.
Right now, I don't feel like I ever want to play it again.
Yeah, that's where you're at. It's like a sparkler. It burns fast, it burns bright, and then afterwards you're left with a burnt stick.
So it was an interesting experience for me because this is not usually how a new game goes with me. I don't think I've ever started out loving something and then ended up hating it after playing it.
Welcome to the world of video games. You never know what you're going to get.
To me before.
I will say this. If you're interested in this game, because there is something worthwhile to us, it is on Game Pass currently. So if you have the Xbox Ultimate, Game Pass Ultimate, it's free. Give it a try. Try out the beginning of the game. Like, just
You'll
to see what you think.
like it. It's fun.
Exactly.
And then just don't ever play it again. No, I'm just kidding. Just don't, like, go ham on it like I did.
Yeah.
I got a little addicted for a while.
Or if you find it on sale on one of the other platforms that it is on, it is even on the mobile, iOS, Android. If it's on sale on there, I mean, it's worth a shot. It's definitely worth a shot. But definitely expect it to get real hard and real difficult. And as long as you know that going in, maybe that's your thing. Maybe it's not. Worth a shot.
Honestly, I would love to hear, like, if a listener tries this out and does really well at it and gets pretty far, I'd love to hear about it. I want to know how you did it. and
I didn't look up any strategies for this game.
Well, I mean, maybe we should. I don't know if there could be or not, but there probably is. I mean, it would be cool just to talk to somebody who could actually do this game.
Yeah.
It's not me. And apparently it's not you.
Yeah.
Which is also very rare. Usually you're like, oh yeah, I got all of
these
this.
type of games, I don't generally like look up strategies for like ways to cheese things or, you know, which there might be like an equipment combo that like, hey, use this, it's gonna work great, that I didn't think of.
That you didn't think of.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right. Because I was gonna say, I mean, there's definitely equipment combos that help you, and if you get lucky and are able to find those things, but as you go further into the episodes, it gets harder and harder to get a really solid setup.
Yeah, because it really makes you burn through equipment in different ways, right?
Even if you do feel like you get a solid setup, the enemies get so much harder that it just doesn't seem to be as effective.
Well, I think we got a lot more out of Dicey Dungeons than I expected. Yeah. Is there any last very important things you want to talk about? Because we got your rating, 6 out of 10. Yep. You're probably not going to play it again at this moment, but maybe I'll ask you again in like a couple months and see if you, or if I see you play it out of the blue. We'll see. I have a feeling that there's going to be a month. It'll be like a month will go by, and then you're going to be like, maybe I'll give that a try again.
Gosh, I know. And then I'll die right away and I'll get mad. I'll be like, why did I do that? I knew it was a waste of time.
Right.
I think it's like you said, the core gameplay is very up our alley.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I like the chance of rolling the dice. I like trying to collect the equipment that you want. I need like an easy mode. Is there a baby mode that I can play?
Baby mode for babies. I don't know. Maybe. All right. Well, okay. You're giving me a grin. I see it.
No, I was going to pass up my joke of the day.
No. You have it.
You want to hear a joke?
I absolutely want to hear a joke. Give it to me.
You're only doing this because you see me being physically uncomfortable, and now you're just picking on me.
I get enjoyment out of it, and then you get to watch me sigh after you give it to me. Let's do it.
Why is French Mario so good at predicting the future?
Why is French Mario so good at predicting the future? Oh my god, I have no idea.
He uses his Luigi board.
Oh my gosh. Why is it French Mario?
Isn't there Mario in Super Mario Odyssey where he has a little red beret and a blue and white striped shirt?
You're right.
Yeah, there is a French Mario.
There is one. Oh my gosh.
I got the joke.
I forgot about that. There's like these weird Mario around the world games. Ugh, Luigi board. Okay, I'll give that one. That one's a tease. It needs some tweaking for the regular everyday. That's a dad joke.
What do you mean?
I would say why. How would you say? How does the psychic Mario tell the future?
Where is there a psychic Mario?
Why does there? What does French have to do with using a haunted board?
Like Luigi. It's a French word. Ouija. It's a French word. That's the joke.
No. I'm out.
That's why it's funny.
I like to thank Brother Ray for our caricatures. I'm loving the new ones. If you are listening, I appreciate you.
Yay!
And
we appreciate all our listeners.
Yes, we definitely appreciate everybody listening.
Hope you're enjoying it.
Always feel free to leave a comment,
follow,
rate on
subscribe.
Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to. You can leave comments. If you have suggestions for games you really want to see us play, or see Rose play, to be more accurate, throw that in those comments. Throw that in that little, what do you like about the show on Spotify? You know, I will happily take suggestions.
I will happily torture Rose.
Yep, exactly. She worded it better than me.
Thank you for the music.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. I enjoy listening to it every time. I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Well, I'm Matt.
And I'm Rose.
And this has been Co-ople Mode. You keep gaming with your bestie. Ta-ta!